The rope was too tight for children so small. Willa Blaine, at 43, had seen enough knots in her life to know when someone meant business. Whoever had tied those 3 little ones to the fence post outside the general store wasn't taking chances. The oldest, a girl of maybe 8, held her chin high despite tears carving tracks through the dirt on her face. The boy in the middle, no older than 6, stared at his bare feet as if they held secrets he couldn't share. But it was the smallest, a girl with matted golden hair, who gripped Willa's heart in a way she hadn't felt since the fever stole her son, Thomas, 2 winters ago. "You buying or just looking, lady?" Malachi Brooks spat tobacco juice into the dust near Willa's worn boots. His wagon groaned under the weight of supplies, goods no one believed he'd earned honestly. In this territory, 3 days' ride from any law, knowing something and proving it were as different as night and day. Willa kept her eyes on the children. The little one's lips moved, forming words too faint to hear, but their rhythm drew Willa closer. The rope had rubbed the girl's wrists raw, blood crusted where someone had tried, and failed, to wash it away. "Depends on what you're asking," Willa said, her voice steady despite the storm brewing in her chest. She'd come to town for salt, pork, flour, maybe a new bridle if the price was right. She hadn't planned on this. No one planned on finding children tied like livestock in the shadow of a store. Brooks stepped between her and the fence, his bulk blotting out the afternoon sun. $50 takes all 3. Good workers, the older ones. The little one'll need training, but she'll learn quick with the right encouragement. The words slithered from his mouth like rancid meat, and Willa's fingers curled into fists. She'd buried her husband 5 years ago, her son 2 years later. Somewhere between those graves, she'd stopped believing in much of anything. But the weight of these children's fear pressed against her, sharp and undeniable. "Where'd you get them?" she asked. "Orphans don't choose where they end up," Brooks said. "These 3 got lucky I found them before someone worse did." The little girl's lips kept moving. Willa leaned closer, straining to hear. The wind shifted, carrying dust, horse sweat, and something else, something that stopped her breath. The girl's whisper broke through the desert silence, clear as a bell, "Thomas." Willa's legs nearly buckled. Thomas. Her boy's name, carved into a wooden cross 2 winters ago. The name she whispered to empty rooms when grief grew too heavy. No one here knew Thomas. She'd moved to this territory after his death, carrying only her husband's rifle and her sorrow. "What did you say?" Willa knelt in the dust, her face level with the girl's. Those eyes, pale as a winter sky, held an exhaustion no child should know. "Thomas," the girl repeated, her gaze locking onto Willa's. "Thomas said you'd come." Brooks laughed, a grating sound. "Kid's been saying that name for 3 days. Probably some old owner. Children cling to strange things." But Willa wasn't listening to him. She studied the girl's delicate features, the curve of her nose, the arch of her brows, familiar in a way that made her chest ache. "How do you know that name?" she whispered. The girl tilted her head, as if hearing a distant voice. "Thomas said his mama had yellow hair like mine. Said she smelled of soap and lavender. Said she'd be sad but kind." The world tilted. Willa's hair was blonde, faded by sun, and she did use lavender soap, the last bar bought from a merchant 6 months back. But those were details anyone could notice. What chilled her was how this child described Thomas, his way of saying "mama" like it was the world's most precious word. 50, Brooks said again, his voice distant. "Take all 3 or leave them. I got places to be." The older girl spoke, her voice hoarse. "Please, lady, don't let him take us to the mining camps. I heard him talking about selling us there." Mining camps. Willa knew what happened to children there, backbreaking work that stole their futures, turning them into ghosts before their time. "I'll take them," she said, reaching for the money in her coat. But hoofbeats interrupted her, and Marshal Gideon Nash rounded the corner, his badge glinting in the late light. His eyes flicked to the children, then Brooks, then Willa kneeling in the dirt. "Problem here?" Nash asked, his hand on his gun. "No problem, Marshal," Brooks said, straightening. "Just business with the lady. Legal transaction." Nash's horse snorted, sensing the tension. The marshal's gaze lingered on the rope marks, the blood on the little one's wrists, the way the older girl flinched when Brooks moved. "These children don't look willing participants in your business, Brooks." "Orphans don't get a say," Brooks replied. "I'm offering them honest work. Better than starving." "I was about to buy them," Willa said, standing slowly. Her knees ached from the dirt. Nash studied her. "You know anything about raising children, Mrs. Blaine?" The question hit hard. She'd raised Thomas for 7 years, taught him to read, ride, respect others. She'd sung him to sleep, held him through storms. "I know enough," she said. The little girl spoke again. "Thomas said you buried him under the big oak tree. Said you put his favorite marble in the box with him." The world stopped. Thomas was buried under an oak, the only one near her homestead. She'd placed his blue marble with white swirls in his coffin, a secret kept between her and the grave. "How could you know that?" Willow whispered. "Because Thomas told me," the girl said. "When the bad men took us from the mission, I was crying. He sat with me in the dark, told me about his mama. Said I should find the lady with yellow hair who smells like lavender." "That's impossible," Nash said, but doubt crept into his voice. Brooks pulled a knife, its blade catching the sun. "Nobody's buying these kids today. Too many questions." Nash's gun cleared leather in a flash. "Drop it, Brooks." But Brooks stepped closer to the children, his eyes calculating. The oldest girl, Iris, pressed against the fence. The boy, Sawyer, went still, his body braced for violence. "Here's what's happening," Brooks said. "I cut these ropes, load the kids, and ride out. Anyone stops me, accidents happen." Willa's heart raced. The little girl, Opal, looked at her. "Thomas said you were brave. Said you chased a mountain lion from your chicken coop with a broom handle." Willa froze. That had happened 3 months after Thomas died. She'd told no one. The memory was hers alone, until now. "How?" she whispered. No time for answers. Brooks raised his knife, and Nash stepped forward, finger on the trigger. "Wait," Willa said. "Brooks, you said 50. I'll pay." Nash's jaw tightened. "Mrs. Blaine, I can't let you pay for stolen children." "You don't know they're stolen," Brooks snapped. "They came from St. Mary's Mission, 3 days north. I got papers." "Show them," Nash said. Brooks reached into his coat, but instead of papers, he drew a second knife. "We're done talking." Sawyer spoke, his voice urgent. "Lady, Thomas said something else. Said he forgives you for the medicine." Willa's breath caught. The fever medicine, she'd forced it down Thomas's throat as he begged her to stop, desperate to save him. The guilt had haunted her for 2 years. No one could know that. Brooks lunged toward Iris, knife gleaming. Willa threw herself between them, tackling him to the ground. His weight crushed her, his hands clawing for her throat. Sawyer leapt onto Brooks's back, pounding with small fists. Brooks backhanded the boy, sending him crashing into the fence. Willa's vision blurred, but the sight of Sawyer's bloodied cheek woke something fierce in her. She drove her knee into Brooks's gut, and he doubled over, gasping. Nash pressed his gun to Brooks's temple. "Move, and you're done." Mrs. Henley from the boarding house rushed forward, cutting the children's ropes. Iris helped Sawyer up, his cheek bleeding but his eyes fierce. "He's got other kids," Iris said. "At his camp, 2 days south. 5 or 6, some real young." Nash's expression hardened. Brooks, you're drawing me a map to that camp. Pray those kids are alive. I got rights. Brooks wheezed. You lost them when you started trading children, Nash said. Mrs. Henley examined the children. I've got room at the boarding house for them. But Opal stepped toward Willa. Thomas said you'd take us home. Said you had blue shutters and a vegetable garden. The crowd murmured. Willa's house did have blue shutters, and her garden grew carrots and beans. Taking in 3 children was no small thing, but Opal's words stirred something in her, a purpose she thought she'd lost. As Willa knelt to hold Opal, she saw it, a blue marble with white swirls, pressed into the dust where Brooks had fallen. It was Thomas's marble, the one she'd buried with him. Her heart pounded. How was it here? She reached for it, fingers trembling, as Opal's pale eyes met hers. Thomas said you'd know what to do, the girl whispered. Willa clutched the marble, its weight impossibly familiar. The children needed her, and for the first time in years, she needed them too. She stood, facing Nash. I'm taking them home.